coming soon to this theater.
Howdy, everybody.
Yeah, that's an old video. What up, everybody? Good to see you. Welcome, and bienvenue. Welcome to CG Horror Movie Club, the stream where we talk about horror movies. We watch horror movies first, and then we talk about them. Or we talk about them, and then we watch them. No, the format of the show, in case you didn't know, is that I always post a link. It's down below where you can click and watch the movie that we're discussing free of charge. We never cover any movies that are behind a paywall. So tonight's movie, for instance, House from 1985, you can watch that on Tubi for free with commercials. But the cool thing about Tubi is that they don't edit their movies. So, you know, all the gore and nudity and everything, and all the other nasty bits. Not that tonight's movie really has any nasty bits. It's actually kind of PG rated. I mean, I'm pretty sure it got an R rating, but I think it's probably more for profanity than anything else. I don't know. But anyway, thank you so much for tuning in, folks. Yes, tonight we are talking about 1985's House, which I hadn't seen in a long time. It was a bit of a surprise hit when it came out in 85. It was written by Fred Dekker, who most of you would know from The Monster Squad and Night of the Creeps. And unfortunately also RoboCop 3 and The Predator. Okay? Homeboy's record is far from perfect, but, you know, definitely a talent, I think, that deserved more opportunities. Well, sorry, I didn't wet my whistle with my my streaming fuel. It was produced by Sean S. Cunningham, who directed and produced, and I think wrote, although I'm not entirely certain about that, the original Friday the 13th, which was really kind of a ripoff of Mario Bava's Bay of Blood. To keep it real, I was never a Friday the 13th fan. I remember people saying, "Oh, that movie's so scary," and you know, I don't think the original Friday the 13th is really that good of a movie. House is, however, directed by Steve Miner, who directed Friday the 13th Part 2 and 3. And those are the movies where Jason Voorhees is the killer. And 3, of course, that's the first time that Jason is seen wearing the iconic hockey mask. So definitely a movie with, some pedigree, some pedigreed talent behind it, without a doubt. Let's see. There's the poster, although this is not the original poster. The original poster is actually kind of cool because it's got like this severed zombie hand that's kind of like hovering in the air, and it's pressing a doorbell. And the tagline was a pretty good one. It said, "Ding dong, you're dead." House is definitely a movie of its year, 1985. 1985, American horror movies were moving away from horror and becoming more like comedies. It's what I refer to as the Evil Dead 2 effect. Evil Dead 2, I think, is an excellent, fun little movie, but it did undeniably have a certain corrosive effect, I would say, on horror. No, actually, you know what? I retract that. I think that that's a little unfair because I think Genres, once they're kind of coming to their end, once they're kind of being exhausted, at least for the time period that they're in, usually fall into satire. For instance, you look at the spaghetti westerns, the Italian westerns. A lot of people look back on the Trinity movies, which starred Bud Spencer and Terence Hill. Oh, yeah, and I happen to be wearing my Bud Spencer t-shirt. Yeah, sheer coincidence. I promise you that. Well, here are Frankie or Sim are watching. This Bud is for you. But a lot of people look back on like movies like They Call Me Trinity. Trinity Is Still My Name, which were satirical spaghetti westerns, as bringing about the death of the spaghetti. But I think that's unfair. I think that the genre was already kind of exhausted. I mean, they'd made well over 300 of these friggin' things. And so naturally, once a genre becomes really thoroughly established, that's when it's time to satirize it or to turn it into a parody. I always saw the trend in 80s horror, 80s American horror anyway, moving more and more into comedy as a kind of watering down to make the movies more appealing to a wider audience. Let's face it, a lot of people don't like to be scared by horror films, and they'll stay away as a result. So you put some comedy in there, that kind of lightens the mood. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But you look at Sam Raimi's Evil Dead series, and you have a perfect example of how the horror got drained out of American horror films across the entire trilogy. You look at Evil Dead, balls out horror movie. I'm not saying it doesn't have some humor in it. It certainly does, but it's still just go for the throat, I'ma fuck you up style horror, like Night of the Living Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that kind of a thing. I mean, even Texas Chainsaw Massacre has some humor in it. Very dark humor, but some humor, but it never takes over, and it never waters down the horror element in the films. Get to Evil Dead 2. Okay, now you're getting into an area where the movies are becoming almost more comedy than horror. And then you get to Evil Dead 3, Army of Darkness, and there's not even any horror there anymore. Army of Darkness isn't a horror movie. It's a comedy. And it's a good one, and it's an entertaining one, but what can I say? I personally found the lessening of horror in horror films to be depressing back at the time. That's why I loved Hellraiser when it came out, because it came out during this period where horror movies were turning into comedies, and Hellraiser has a little humor in it too, but very little. And it was so refreshing at that time to see a horror movie that was just balls out, poker faced, I'ma get you, ruthless. So yeah, the movie that we're discussing tonight, of course, is 1985's House, and it's not exactly ruthless. Very far from it. I hadn't seen it in a very long time. I kind of thought like, well, let me take another look at it. It's been a while. I'm also writing right now a top secret horror comic that deals with some of the same themes that are in this. So I was like, oh, okay, let me take a look at that. And, not looking for stuff to steal so much as, well, it's always interesting to see how other writers approach the same subject matter. And what can I say? I wasn't that crazy about House back in the day when it was a video store rental, and having watched it a couple nights ago, I'm still not really crazy about it. Yeah, it's not bad. I can't say that it's bad. It certainly moves at a brisk pace. It's got some good monsters in it. It's got Richard Mall from of Night Court fame, whom we'll be taking a peek at in a little bit. Here's a very cool looking goblin of some kind. It kind of gives you an idea what the general tone of this movie is. Although I think that that's genuinely creepy. Yeah, it's silly looking, but it's, I very often the imagery that is in our nightmares is very silly and scary at the same time. And, you look at something like this and it, I mean, yeah, if you suddenly saw that peeking around a doorway at you, you'd shit yourself without a doubt. It's like, oh, he looks happy to see me, but like not in a good way. But so the plot's very simple. It involves a horror novelist played by William Catt, here going full Chad with like the V-cut sweater with no shirt underneath, showing off a little bit of his physique. I can't say that William Catt's a bad actor. He has a certain lack of character or charisma, I would say, though. But anyway, yeah, he plays this guy who's come across some hard times. He's a successful horror novelist, but he has a son that has disappeared. And as a result, his marriage to his wife, who's played by Kenneth K. Lenz, she's a famous actress. Their marriage has dissolved, although they clearly still care about each other. But their marriage hasn't survived the loss of their child. The movie opens up in the titular house, which is like old school. I don't want to say Victorian mansion. I think somebody that knows a little bit more about architecture might be able to describe it better. But it's it's one of those big, beautiful old houses from like the turn of the century that have a lot of gables and there it is. There's the house in question, right? Pretty cool looking, spooky. Lots of gables, a little tower over there. It's it's certainly a nice setting for a haunted house movie. So William Catt's character, his aunt hangs herself, and he moves into the house because he still has the unresolved issue of his missing son, who went disappearing while they were living in the house, actually. They left, obviously, because there's lots of bad memories and all this stuff of the loss of their son. We have no idea how long ago this was. Presumably, it's at least about a year or so. So he moves into the house, and weird shit starts happening. Really seemingly random shit. Monsters start showing up. Here's a really cool one that comes out of the closet to fuck with William Catt. One of the things that's great about having these movies in high definition is that you really get a good look at the special effects. I know in some cases that can kind of, I don't know, almost ruin the effect for some people. You look at something like Lucio Fulci's Zombie. The Blu-ray of that is so crisp and so clear. You can see, little bits of gauze peeking out from underneath the zombie's makeup. I don't think that sort of a thing harms movies, but then again, my ability to suspend disbelief has always been pretty strong. At least it was, always has been since I was a little kid. And you do get a good look at the monsters in this. And I'm not sure who designed these, to be perfectly honest. I really should have done better homework on this. It's not Tom Savini, it's not Rick Baker, it's not Rob Bottin. It may be somebody like Screaming Mad George. It kind of has that look to it, but this ghost or this fiend that pops out of the closet, I'd never noticed this before, has a bunch of faces on its faces and on its body too. And so it's, you know, it's a pretty creepy looking thing. But once again, this is more of a comedy really than a horror film. So, you know, we get some very goofy scenes where William Katt is trying to capture the thing on camera, and he has all these cameras set up. Oh yeah, I know he's also a Vietnam veteran. This movie feels like it had a lot of stuff, I don't know, kind of like thrown into it in later drafts. I know that Fred Decker, when he wrote the original script for this, that this was written as a balls out horror movie, that this wasn't a comedy at all, but it got turned into one. Gremlins, I think, was something very similar. Gremlins was originally written as like a straight horror film. Is it Zach Galligan's? Yeah, that's Zach Galligan's the actor, and that his character's mother gets decapitated in the original script for that, and her head goes bouncing down the stairs. Like that's like, yeah. So, like I said, this was like during an era where horror movies were, you know, they were taking the horror out of the horror, kind of how during the 90s with movies like the remake of The Mummy with Brendan Fraser and Arnold Vosloo and the Underworld movies. You know, you had what should have been horror stories turned into action adventure stories. Okay, whatever. I'm not really crazy about those either, but you know, I suppose it's valid. It's just, you know, I like my horror movies to have some fucking horror in them, right? Horror is supposed to make you feel uncomfortable, not necessarily cozy. Although then again, I watch the old Hammer movies, and those always make me feel cozy. So it's okay. You can have cozy horror, I suppose. George Wendt makes an appearance as the nosy neighbor. Most of you would remember him as Norm from Cheers. He actually came from the Chicago theater world, the same world scene that produced Stuart Gordon of Reanimator fame, and who's the other guy I'm thinking of? Somebody who's like very, very, very legit. Sorry, I'm sorely undercaffeinated this evening, so my trivia muscle's a little dried and atrophied. So he's the nosy neighbor. He's watching William Katt gradually appears to be spiraling, not so much into madness, but maybe into like nervous breakdown territory. And he's actually a sweet guy. He actually is supportive. And although, he's undeniably nosy, he's nosy in a good way. He actually cares about his neighbor and how he's doing. George Wendt, very underrated actor. I think specifically because of Cheers, he was just known for being this particular character, and was usually cast as that character if he appeared in anything other than Cheers. If you see him in Stuart Gordon's King of the Ants, however, which is it's not a giant insect movie, but is more of like a really dark kind of a crime horror film Stuart Gordon did. He's genuinely menacing in that, and shows that he had greater range. But that's the thing about being typecast. Is the bad part is you're always cast as the same character. The good part is you're always going to get a job, because when people have that stock character in their movie, they're going to be thinking, well, who are we going to get to play that? Let's get that guy. So you've got that part locked down. Passed away a couple of years ago, I believe. Unfortunately. There we go. Oh, wait, this is still the DVD cover. But at least it has the tagline "Ding dong, you're dead." Oh yeah, here's some more. Here's a better look at some of these goblins that pull William Cat up a chimney at one point. Gee, is it showing that I'm not really crazy about this movie? I'm afraid my lack of enthusiasm may be showing. But Richard Mall shows up. Oh yeah, here's the monster popping out of the closet. That's actually a pretty good shot. I don't know, but I get the very strong feeling that this movie was originally meant to be in 3D. It has a lot of coming at you 3D moments. And Steve Miner, before this, directed Friday the 13th Part 3, which was released as Friday the 13th Part 3D, because that became like a thing, where like the third installment in a franchise would be 3D. This is during like the very brief 3D revival that happened in the 80s with Italian movies like Treasure of the Four Crowns. Charles Band had a couple of real shit movies that were in 3D. Parasite, which had the, I believe, the big screen debut of Demi Moore. And what was the other one? Oh, yeah, they did a theatrical re-release of House of Wax with Vincent Price. Saw that in the theater. That was really cool. And, oh, yeah, and Metal Storm, The Destruction of Jared Sin, which is like major false advertising because Jared Sin is a character in the movie, but he does not get destroyed. So shame on you, Charles Band, for tickling her ass with a feather like that. Here's another one of the monsters that shows up. This ghoulish creature that gets chopped into bits. I mean, the monster designs in this are kind of cool. I'm not going to lie. But once again, you know, not so much intended to inspire fear and dread as, I don't know, laughter, I suppose. So Richard Mall, who you all might remember as the big guy from Night Court, appears as William Cat's old Nam buddy. And so we are treated to a bunch of non-flashbacks. Non-flashback! That's a little Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 reference for you. This was the era also where we were starting to get a lot of Vietnam movies, like Platoon and that sort of a thing. And so we get some Vietnam flashbacks in this that look like they're shot in somebody's backyard in California. And all the soldiers, like they all look like they've been lifting weights and everything. And, William Cat's showing off his biceps and shit. And it's just goofy as fuck. And so his friend Richard Mall's character gets lit up by some Viet Cong, and so he's like begging William Cat's character, like, you gotta kill me, like, don't let them take me prisoner. But he's like, I'm gonna get some help, and he goes to get some help, and his friend gets taken prisoner, and it turns out that he's the one, spoiler alert, he's the one that has kidnapped his son and sucked him into like another dimension. And I have to say, those are the parts of this movie that I thought worked. Those are the parts of this movie that I thought were really kind of effective, where William Cat's character goes through a mirror. I mean, not through him. I mean, like he doesn't go through the mirror. He smashes a mirror and finds like a dimension behind it, and lowers a rope and gets attacked by like what looks like one of the flying deadites from the end of Evil Dead 2. And it steals his shotgun, and there is a kind of a cool moment because it's stop motion, right? So it's flying around, and it's got a shotgun, and it like twirls the shotgun and fires it, and cuts his rope and he plunges into some dark water far below and finds himself back in the Nam. And what does he find in the Nam? He finds his son in a tiger cage. And he rescues his son, and everything seems great. And then, ta-da! Richard Mall shows up, zombified as a zombie soldier. Evidently, they were hoping that this character would be the next Jason Voorhees or Freddy Krueger or something like that. They were hoping that this would be a franchisable character. I don't know what they were thinking. Not that it's not a cool character, and the makeup is really kind of badass. When this guy shows up, he looks like he stepped right out of an old horror comic. Not just EC stuff. I'm thinking more like House of Mystery, Bernie Wrightson, and maybe even some of the stuff from the 80s, but mostly the 70s, Warren magazines, that kind of shit, where you would see zombie soldiers popping up with surprising regularity. It looks like he stepped right off a comic book page. That's very cool. And I won't give the ending away. If this movie is something that you think you want to check out, gee, have I given it like a really enthusiastic appraisal here? Oh, look, I'm sorry. What can I say? I'm not saying House is shit. Okay, it's not. It's okay for what it is. I just don't think it's anything particularly special. If you want to check it out, click on the link in the description below. You can watch it for free. Maybe you'll enjoy it more than I did. It just I don't know. It's aight, but I don't know. Just not my cup of tea. So anyway, folks, I'm gonna keep. I guess I'm gonna keep it short tonight, and not sure what we're gonna be watching next week. My friend Matt isn't here this evening because he's a traitor and a scumbag. No, he's he's out doing fun stuff with his wife and his kids. Much love, Matt, and we'll be back next week, and hopefully watching something better than House. I don't know, man. Maybe I don't consider myself a horror snob, but I am a bit of a connoisseur. And what can I say? House 1985. It's aight. By the way, be careful if you decide to watch this on another platform. There was a unofficial remake that was made by a Christian film studio. It wasn't actually even a remake, but it was created when all of the Michael Bay produced remakes of Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and Texas Chainsaw Massacre were coming out. And so there was this Christian film studio that was like, oh, well, we'll do a remake of House, except it won't really be a remake because we don't want to pay for the rights. But we'll shoot it in that sickly green color that all horror movies were being shot in at the time, that horrible puke green lighting, which was just like, at that time, that was just, that's just how horror movies looked for people that were making horror movies that weren't really into horror movies. So, yeah, I don't know. House 1985. Click on the link below. Check it out if you feel like it. I don't strongly recommend it, but like I said, maybe you'll get a bigger kick out of it than I did. With that, I'm going to sign off, and I don't know. What should we watch for next week? I don't know. I'll find something. And it will be something on that you can watch for free either on YouTube or Tubi or Peacock or Epix or, there's a lot of free shit out there right now. There's a lot of free streaming platforms. And so, anyway, This is Brian signing off for CG Horror Movie Club. And next week, hopefully, we'll have a movie that I'll like. Or at least have some interest in, so I can riff on it solo for an hour. But I'm sorry, fucking House. I can't talk about a House for for an hour straight. It's just not that good of a movie. What can I say? But anyway, I hope you all have a lovely week, and I will talk to you soon. And I bid you all stay scared. Peace.